minute ago that I have posted, and it says right here, I posted test scores and I returned your corrections via email this morning. So I use this website called Gradescope to do the grading. And what that allows me to do is basically set a rubric up for each question, and I can click through and leave some comments and things like that on your questions, kind of similar to what I would have done if I had your test and I was able to write on it. So it's a nice little feature, a nice little thing that I found, a nice website. And so I would encourage you to look through your solutions on Gradescope to see where you lost points, and then you can check the full solutions that I posted to Blackboard. And if you have any questions about any of that, you can let me know. But we do want to understand that material because we've got our final exam coming up, and you're going to need to be able to do trig things on the final as well. And so particular big sort of stumbling spots might be identities, or maybe some of the formulas were some of the places I saw people lose most of the points. And so if you're one of those people, I'm happy to go over problems with you. Oops. Or we can do some more practice problems or whatever would be helpful. But I would like to help you pass the course. Also know that I posted a current weighted average column on Blackboard. So that takes all your grades, applies the weights in the syllabus, and tells you where you stand right now. And I created two of them, one of them that includes the final exam and one of them that doesn't include the final exam. So in other words, if you're thinking about just taking the course pass fail, you can decide whether, you know, sort of like where you are. Actually, I think I took that column down. But anyway, the current weighted column that I have up there, now that I'm remembering and I'm looking at this, has your current average, not including the final. And so, right, so if you're going to pass, if you're doing the pass-fail option, you need to get above a 60 for your final average. And so you should be able to see where you stand basically based on that. Right. The only thing left out there are a couple of homeworks and the final exam. And I've got the schedule up right here. This is the schedule for the rest of the semester, and I've posted the rest of the videos and all the homework. Everything up is up there for the rest of the semester. So there's a bunch of homework due on Wednesday. There are 4 homeworks due this Wednesday, and then another bunch due the following Wednesday. The ones due this Wednesday, half of them have been up there for about 2 weeks. So I'm hoping folks have started those. If not, then that's unfortunate. You'll have some homework to do this week, but it's not the end of the world. And then what we'll do as far as the course schedule goes is we'll finish up exponentials and logs today and tomorrow. And that's what the homework on Wednesday is about. And then the homework for next week, so this week's homework is exponentials and logs. And then next week's homework is going to be a few sort of simpler topics. So the way I usually run the course is we do a bunch of review early in the course, right? So we started off with like reviewing exponentials and some algebra and stuff like that. And then we jump right into trig. We did all the trig. We completed the trig. We took the test on trig. And then we do exponentials and logs. And then I like to finish with what I think is easier material. And so I kind of leave some of the easier review that doesn't have implications for other parts of the course to the end. And so that's why the last couple of days are like kind of random topics that sometimes people who teach this course cover these topics early in the course. But again, rather than cramming in trig or exponentials in the end, I like to just slip in some of the easier topics at the end. That's just the way I've started running the course. So that's why it seems maybe a little out of order. But if you look at the notes follow this pattern. So it shouldn't be unexpected, I guess. We'll have our final web work due next Wednesday. And then the last couple classes we can just review for the final. Like there won't be things due that week. The following week, I mean, there's nothing new. You'll just basically have a full week to prepare for our final exam, which will be on our last day of class. I'm going to try to make sort of a shorter final exam so that hopefully people can finish it within the class time, but you can take as long as you need. I'll post review and stuff like that by class tomorrow. Okay, I think that's all I really wanted to mention about stuff. I'll remind you, we have, our tutors are still available on evenings, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evening. We still got our tutors available on Google Meet or email, so please keep that in mind. And what I think I'd like to start by doing today is seeing if people have questions about the test, and then we can move into the exponentials and logs if people have questions about that. So I've got the solutions right here. They're also on Blackboard, but I have them here, and I'm happy to go over any of the problems you're interested in, or looking at, like, I can just show you the problem, or we can go over it from scratch. So what can I do for you this morning? Related to the test, again, let's start with the test. Anything about test solutions that people are confused about? Going to give a nice, healthy, long pause here. Wait for any questions. Feel free to drop it in the chat or turn on your mic, either one.
Quick question.
Yep.
I guess from when I was having a hard time with the homework, when do you know when to use natural log and then logarithms and and the problems? Like, how can you tell which one to use? Like, I know it's a stupid question, but
Hold on one second, Sean. I just want to make sure no one has questions about trig, and I'm assuming no one does, since no one said anything. But if no one does have a trig question, it's probably because I just turned back the test and maybe you haven't developed any. So, again, we're going to have trig on the final exam, and so over the next couple weeks, as you review your final and the solutions, please let me know if you want to look at any of those problems. So anyway, back to Sean's questions. Now we want to talk about exponentials and logs. What exactly do you mean by when do you use them? You say more?
I guess like if I'm looking at an equation, how I know it's a log problem or a natural log or as a ln.
Oh, so like, how do you know when it's natural log versus others? Is that what you mean? Versus not
Something like
natural
that, yeah.
log? So let me say this.
It's probably a stupid question, but as I said before, logs the bane of my existence. Sorry.
So the big thing that we need to remember that carries us through most of the log and exponential stuff is this: log base a of x. Oops, that's not the right thing. That should be an equal sign. Equals y. And so I'm going to write down the thing that's on page, if you're looking in your notes, on approximately page 82, I think. And it says this: log base a of x equals y if and only if a to the y equals x. And so this tells us anytime we have an exponential equation, let me adjust my light here, it seems a little bright. Anytime we have an exponential equation, which is this one, it can be written as a log. Or anytime we have a log equation, which would be the one on the left, it can be written as an exponential, right? So in other words, this a in the log is the same a here, this y is the same y, this x is the same x. And so that's why these two things are studied together. It's because they're inverses of each other, right? A to the y equals x is an inverse of log base a. That's why we study these things together. And so so we have lots of different log bases. So we could say like log base 10 of 2 is a thing, right? And so this has base 10. And so I think Sean's question was about log base e, which is a specific base where e is the number approximately 2.72. And so when you see log base e is a number that exists. It's kind of like pi. It's an irrational number that has decimals that never end. And so log base e is just like any other log, but the number here is like 2.72. And we use this number, the way it was derived is because it turns out lots of things in the natural world fit this exponential. So when you write e to the x, which would look like this, lots of like population growth or like disease growth or growth of bank accounts, lots of things sort of follow this general curve using e to the x, which is why we call it the natural exponential. And so for whatever reason, I don't actually know the reason behind this. I think it's just a shorthand thing. Instead of doing log base e, people sometimes just write natural log, ln. And so if you see something that says like ln x, you can also think about that as log base e of x. So I'm not sure that was Sean's equation, but he did mention sort of what natural log, sort of question about natural log, and I thought I'd at least mention that. Is that what you were getting at, Sean, or did you want to try to clarify something further?
Somewhat, but I think I get it. It's just in a never mind.
So, you know, logs and exponentials themselves are different things, right? So let me just do like a quick overview. Exponentials, which is, you know, we studied last week, supposedly. You should have watched the video last week. I didn't have any questions about it, so it makes me think people didn't watch it, but I don't know. You should have watched this video last week. And exponentials have these kind of shapes, right? They either go up or down, depending on what the base is. And logs have this type of shape. Sorry, let me get my log notes here. Logs look like this. And they look like this because they're the inverse of exponentials, right? So like if exponentials do this one, we talked about in the inverse section that if you want the inverse, you flip that graph around the line y equals x. And so if I flip that graph around this line, it would become this one. And so that's why this is the graph of e to the x, and this is the graph of the natural log, because these are each other's inverse. And so those are the general shapes. They have similar kind of shapes. They're just inverses of each other, so it's a flipped version of the other one. Now, each one is its own thing, right? Each one is its own topic, but we use each other to solve equations. So if you have an exponential equation, so if you have something like e to the x equals 3, you use log base e to solve it, right? So if you have an exponential, you use a log to solve the equation. That's what, this is technically what's in the video for tomorrow, so I'm not going to go into too much detail in this, but just to Sean's question, when you have an exponential, you use logs to solve it. And if you have a log equation, like log base e of 3 equals x, you would change to an exponential to solve. So that's another way they're related. Like if you have an exponential equation, you actually use logs to solve the equation. And if you have a log equation, you actually use exponentials to solve. Again, because they're each other's inverse, and so we can use that concept to cancel things out and get the variable by itself. Again, I'm not going to get into more of that because that's technically the video for tomorrow. But I am kind of getting the feeling, based on the lack of questions last couple times, that people are blowing off this last couple sections. And I would just encourage you to reconsider that, because there's, even though we're nearing the end of the semester here, there's 4 sections of logs and exponential equations, and then there's another 3 sections of additional things after that. So that's 7 full-on sections that we still have homework for, basically, and that you'll see on the final. And I would just caution you to not blow it off quite yet here. I would try to finish this material and make sure you're able to pass the course. Partially, again, just so you can pass the course, but also partially because lots of majors have you take this class, Precalculus, because they either want you to know something about trig or they want you to know something about exponentials and logs. Specifically, if you're a biology major or ecology or business, things like that, they often want you to know things about exponentials and logs, because that's how you model things in biology and business. And so if you're missing this material, you're kind of missing the point, I think, of preparing yourself for some future class. Just for example, I know for a fact that future ecology classes, lots of ecology classes, look at models that look like this, exponential models. And then they ask you to solve equations with exponentials in them. And so, you know, you want to learn how to do that so you can be prepared in those future courses. That's all I'm trying to say. So that's my pep talk about trying to finish strong here. Like, I'm starting to peter out too. I realize we only have a couple weeks left in the semester, but there is still stuff to do here, and I would just encourage you to try to finish strong. All right, I've rambled for a little bit. Sean, I don't know if that helped anymore, but I'm happy to keep talking about that.
It did. Thank you.
Sure. Are there other questions about exponentials or logs in general? So technically today you were supposed to learn about this page. It was a one-page thing for today, but it's kind of complicated, right? There's a lot of stuff in there. I'm happy to talk about those notes or the homework, or if you have been blowing this off a little bit, I'm happy to go back to the first page and talk about exponentials in general if you're sort of stuck back there, which is fine. I'm happy to bring you up there. But again, don't let this stuff just slip by. And I'll just remind you too, I'm looking for everyone to pass the final exam to pass the course. And so this is, you know, don't get this far and then slip the last couple weeks and end up not getting the credit you deserve. All right, I'm gonna pause here and see if there's some questions. I'm gonna wait at least 3 minutes to see if I can generate some questions here. I'd love to make use of this time for you. I'm gonna shut my mouth. Hey, question. What material will be covered for the final? The final exam is going to be cumulative, so it's going to cover day 1 through the last day. It's going to cover absolutely everything in the course. I'm considering letting you use some reference material for that to ease the burden a little bit, but that's not normally something I do. I just might consider doing that under these circumstances. You'll at least have all the reference material from the trig section. So let me be clear about that. But I'm also considering just letting you maybe have like your note packet out or something like that. Other thoughts or questions? Okay, so there's homework due Wednesday, and there's, quite frankly, there's a decent amount of it because I signed most of it 2 weeks ago. And so looking over those, people's progress on those, doesn't look like a lot of people have started them. So maybe you would want to look at that stuff this evening and potentially generate some questions for tomorrow's class. I'd say about half the class has finished stuff, maybe half the class hasn't started. So anyway, I want to be here for you. I'm trying hard. I hope you're putting forth some effort too. I guess I'm not going to really scan anything. Maybe I'll just scan the announcements page and post it for today. I guess I'll scan this page too. Why not? But please do send me some questions for tomorrow related to the test, related to exponentials, anything that would help you. I really would love to make these sessions more useful for you. I appreciate you coming, but I would also appreciate some questions. I'm going to stick around for a little bit in case anyone wants to chat. But otherwise, thanks. Have a great day.